Sofia Martinez pressed herself against the executive elevator wall as footsteps echoed through the 32nd floor corridor. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She wasn't supposed to be here this early. The security guard had specifically told the night cleaning crew that the executive floor was off-limits until after 2 a.m., but here she was at 1:47, clutching her supply cart like a shield. The footsteps faded toward the stairwell. Sofia exhaled slowly and pushed her cart toward the corner office marked Ryan Carter, CEO. The motion sensor lights flickered on, casting harsh shadows across the glass-walled space. She had cleaned this office every night for 8 months, yet tonight felt different. Tonight, something was wrong. Papers scattered across Carter's usually pristine desk caught her attention immediately. In 8 months, she had never seen so much as a pen out of place. Ryan Carter was obsessively neat, almost pathologically so. His assistant Jennifer had mentioned it once during their brief elevator encounter. Every document filed, every surface spotless, every corner of his domain controlled. Sofia approached the desk cautiously. Her rubber gloves squeaked against the cart handle as she maneuvered around the leather chairs. The papers weren't random business documents. They were personal correspondence, bank statements, and something else entirely. Something that made her stomach clench with recognition and fear. Cyrillic letters sprawled across cream-colored stationery. Russian, the same language her father had whispered to her mother during their heated late-night conversations. The same script she had learned to read during those endless hours in hospital waiting rooms while her mother underwent chemotherapy treatments. Sofia's hands trembled as she lifted the document. The letterhead bore an address in Brighton Beach, Brooklyn, but the content was far more sinister than any innocent business transaction. Words jumped out at her. Transfer, silence, consequences, 10 years. Her father's voice echoed in her memory, teaching her the nuances of diplomatic language, the subtle threats hidden in formal prose. The document was a blackmail letter. Someone was demanding money from Ryan Carter. Significant money. The figure mentioned made Sofia's knees weak. $2 million. More money than she would see in 10 lifetimes of scrubbing floors and emptying trash cans. The letter referenced bank account numbers, transfer deadlines, and consequences for noncompliance that sent ice through her veins. But it was the signature that stopped her breathing entirely. A. Carter. Sofia stared at the signature until the letters blurred. Carter. The same last name as the man whose office she was standing in. The same man who barely acknowledged her existence when their paths crossed in the hallway. Someone with his last name was blackmailing him. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from her mother's night nurse. The medication wasn't working. They needed to discuss other options. Options that cost money Sofia didn't have, even with 3 jobs and 16-hour workdays. Sofia's thumb hovered over her phone's camera function. This document could change everything. Not just for Ryan Carter, but for her. Information like this had value. People paid for secrets, especially secrets that could destroy someone as powerful as Carter. The elevator chimed. Sofia's blood turned to ice. She shoved the document back onto the desk, grabbed her spray bottle, and began frantically wiping down surfaces she had already cleaned twice. The elevator doors opened with a soft whisper. Heavy footsteps approached. Expensive shoes on marble flooring. Sofia kept her eyes down, focusing on the imaginary smudges on Carter's glass desk. Maybe he wouldn't notice her. Maybe he would walk past to another office. Maybe she could disappear into the background like she always did. What are you doing here? His voice cut through the silence like a blade. Deep, authoritative, and dangerously calm. Sofia's hand stilled on the desk surface. She could feel his presence behind her, radiating heat and barely controlled anger. Cleaning, sir. Regular schedule. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Regular schedule is after 2 a.m. It's 1:50. Sofia turned slowly, keeping her expression neutral. Ryan Carter stood 6 feet away, his dark suit impeccable despite the late hour. His steel-gray eyes fixed on her with laser focus. She had seen those eyes before, usually looking through her as if she were furniture. Tonight, they saw everything. Security let me start early. My other job starts at 3 a.m. The lie came easily. She had become expert at juggling schedules and explanations over the past 2 years. Carter's gaze shifted to his desk. Sofia watched his jaw tighten as he took in the scattered papers. His eyes moved from the documents to her face, then back to the desk. The calculation in his expression made her stomach drop. Did you touch anything on my desk? No, sir. Just cleaning around the edges. Carter walked past her to the desk, his movements controlled and predatory. He gathered the papers with swift efficiency, but Sophia caught the moment when his eyes found the Russian document. His face went completely blank. You can finish tomorrow night. Leave now. Sir, I still have 6 offices to complete before now. The single word carried enough authority to end arguments with board members and government officials. Sophia nodded, gathered her supplies, and headed toward the door. She made it halfway across the office before his voice stopped her again. Martinez. She turned back. He knew her name. In 8 months of invisible coexistence, Ryan Carter knew her name. If anyone asks what you saw here tonight, you saw nothing. Understood? Sophia met his gaze directly for the first time. I never see anything, Mr. Carter. That's why you pay me to clean at night. Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. For a moment, he looked less like the untouchable CEO and more like a man carrying weight too heavy for one person. Good night, Martinez. Sophia pushed her cart toward the elevator, hyper-aware of his eyes on her back. As the doors closed, she caught a glimpse of him standing at his desk, holding the Russian document. The elevator descended through 32 floors of steel and glass, carrying her away from the moment that would change everything. But the image of those Cyrillic letters was burned into her memory. Every word, every threat, every bank account number. Her father hadn't just taught her to read Russian. He had taught her to remember everything, to store information like a diplomat, to recognize when knowledge could save lives, or destroy them. The lobby security guard barely glanced up as she signed out early. Sophia walked through the revolving doors into the Portland night, knowing she had just crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. The blackmail letter wasn't just Ryan Carter's problem anymore. It was hers. Sophia arrived at Carter Technologies 30 minutes early the next night, her stomach churning with equal parts dread and anticipation. She had spent the entire day researching Russian financial terminology, brushing up on diplomatic language patterns her father had drilled into her years ago. The words from that document haunted her every waking moment. The security guard waved her through without comment. Sophia rode the elevator to the 32nd floor, expecting to find Ryan Carter's office dark and empty like every other night for the past 8 months. Instead, warm light spilled from his corner office, and she could see his silhouette behind the glass walls. He was waiting for her. Sophia's hands gripped her cart handles tighter as she approached his office. The door stood open, an obvious invitation that felt more like a trap. Carter sat behind his desk, fingers steepled, watching her with the patience of a predator. You're early again, Martinez. Yes, sir. Sophia pushed her cart to the threshold, but didn't enter. Every instinct screamed danger. Come in. Close the door. Sophia obeyed, her heart hammering against her ribs. The office felt smaller with Carter's full attention focused on her. He gestured to one of the leather chairs across from his desk. Sit. I prefer to stand, sir. Carter's mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. I'm sure you do, but humor me. Sophia perched on the edge of the chair, ready to bolt. Carter opened his desk drawer and withdrew the same cream-colored document she had seen the night before. He placed it on the desk between them with deliberate precision. Tell me what you see. Sophia glanced at the paper, then back at his face. I see a document, sir. Look closer. She leaned forward slightly, scanning the Cyrillic text. Her father's voice echoed in her memory, translating diplomatic communications during late-night phone calls with colleagues from the embassy. The formal language structure, the coded threats, the careful wording designed to intimidate without directly incriminating the sender. It appears to be correspondence in Russian, sir. Carter's eyebrows rose a fraction. You can identify Russian script. My father was a translator. I picked up some basics. Just basics. Carter picked up the document, his eyes never leaving her face. This letter arrived yesterday morning. My usual translator is unavailable, and I find myself in need of immediate assistance. Tell me, Martinez, what would you say if I offered you a substantial bonus to translate this document? Sophia's mouth went dry. I would say my Russian isn't that advanced, sir. But you recognized it immediately. You knew exactly what you were looking at last night. The accusation hung in the air between them. Sophia kept her expression neutral, but her mind raced. He knew she had read more than she admitted. The question was how much he suspected. I saw foreign text. That's all. Carter leaned back in his chair, studying her with clinical interest. You know what I think, Martinez? I think you're considerably more intelligent than you pretend to be. I think you saw this document last night and understood enough to realize its significance. Sir, let me make you a proposition. Carter's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. If you can translate this document accurately, completely, and discreetly, I'll give you $50,000. Sophia's breath caught. $50,000. Her mother's medical bills. The overdue rent. The credit card debt that kept her awake at night. Everything that had been crushing her for the past 2 years could disappear with one translation. And if I can't, Carter's smile turned predatory. Then you'll marry me. Sophia stared at him, certain she had misheard. Excuse me. You heard correctly. If you accept this challenge and fail to deliver a complete, accurate translation, you'll marry me. That's insane. Is it? You're a cleaning lady with no formal education, struggling to support a sick mother. I'm offering you a way out of poverty with one simple task. Unless, of course, you're afraid you can't deliver. The condescension in his voice made Sophia's blood boil. This wasn't a business proposition. This was a game to him. A wealthy man amusing himself with the hired help, safe in the knowledge that she couldn't possibly succeed. You're mocking me. I'm offering you an opportunity. $50,000 for a simple translation. Unless you think marriage to me would be worse than your current circumstances. Sophia's hands clenched in her lap. The arrogance in his voice, the assumption that she was too stupid to understand what he was really doing. He was playing with her desperation, dangling hope in front of her like a carrot, knowing she would fail and he could laugh about it later. Why marriage? Why not just fire me when I fail? Because failure should have consequences. And because I'm curious to see how far you'll go to avoid poverty. Sophia stood abruptly, anger overriding caution. You think this is funny? Poor little janitor thinks she can read Russian. Let's see how she humiliates herself. Carter's expression shifted, surprise flickering across his features. For the first time since she had known him, he looked genuinely caught off guard. That's not. Yes, it is. Sophia's voice cut through his protest. You're bored, and I'm entertainment. The desperate cleaning lady who thinks she's smart enough to play in your world. Carter leaned forward, his steel gray eyes sharpening with interest. Am I what? Smart enough to play in my world? Sophia stared at him, seeing the challenge beneath the mockery. This wasn't just about translation. This was about proving something to both of them. About whether she was brave enough to step out of the shadows she had been hiding in for 8 months. Give me the document. Carter's smile returned, but this time it held genuine anticipation rather than condescension. Does that mean you accept my terms? Sophia thought about her mother's medical bills, about the eviction notice taped to her apartment door, about spending the rest of her life invisible, cleaning up after people who looked through her like glass. I accept, but when I succeed, I want the $50,000 in cash, and I want a written guarantee that you'll never mention this conversation to anyone. When you succeed, Sophia held out her hand. The document, Mr. Carter. Carter placed the letter in her palm, his fingers brushing hers for just a moment. You have 24 hours, Martinez. Don't disappoint me. Sophia folded the document carefully and slipped it into her uniform pocket. I won't disappoint myself. She walked toward the door, acutely aware of his eyes following her movement. At the threshold, she turned back. For the record, Mr. Carter, marriage to you wouldn't be worse than poverty. It would be worse than death. Carter's laughter followed her all the way to the elevator. Sophia spread the document across her kitchen table at 3 a.m. after finishing her shift at the warehouse. Her mother slept fitfully in the next room, the oxygen concentrator humming its steady rhythm. Sophia had arranged her father's old Russian dictionaries, diplomatic glossaries, and legal translation guides in careful rows around the letter. The cream-colored paper seemed to glow under her desk lamp. She had read it twice already, but now she needed to understand every nuance, every threat hidden in the formal language. Her father's voice echoed in her memory as she worked through each sentence with methodical precision. The letterhead belonged to a shell company in Brighton Beach, but the real sender was clear from the signature and content. Aaron Carter, Ryan's brother, demanding $2 million in exchange for continued silence about certain financial irregularities in government contracts from Carter Technologies' early years. But it wasn't just blackmail. It was personal warfare. The letter referenced a decade of payments, threats of exposure, and intimate knowledge of Ryan's business practices that could only come from someone with inside access. Aaron knew about offshore accounts, falsified inspection reports, and regulatory bribes that had built the foundation of Carter Technologies. More chilling was the casual mention of previous consequences for delayed payments, including the mysterious death of a former business partner. Sophia's hands trembled as she transcribed the final paragraph. Aaron wasn't just extorting money. He was systematically destroying his brother's empire from the shadows, one payment at a time, one compromised decision at a time. Her phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. "How's the translation coming, Martinez?" Sophia stared at the screen. Only Ryan Carter knew about the document, and she had never given him her personal number. She typed back carefully. "Who is this?" "Your future husband if you fail. I'm curious about your progress." Sophia's stomach clenched. Ryan Carter was texting her at 3 a.m. about a blackmail letter. Either he was more desperate than she had realized, or he didn't trust her to complete the task. It's complicated. The language is formal diplomatic Russian with financial terminology. "Can you finish it?" Sophia looked at the half-completed translation spread across her table. The worst parts were still ahead of her, buried in technical jargon and veiled threats. But she understood enough to know that Ryan Carter was trapped in a nightmare that had been destroying him for years. "Yes, but I need to ask you something first." Her phone rang immediately. Carter's voice came through tired and strained, nothing like the controlled authority from his office. "What do you need to know? Is Aaron Carter your brother?" Silence stretched between them. Sophia could hear traffic in the background, suggesting Carter wasn't calling from his office or home. "You've read more than I thought. He's been blackmailing you for 10 years. The payments, the compromised business decisions, the threats about exposure. This isn't just money, Mr. Carter. He's trying to destroy you. Aaron is supposed to be dead." Sophia's breath caught. "Supposed to be? Car accident. 10 years ago. I was the last person to see him alive." The weight in Carter's voice told Sophia there was more to that story, layers of guilt and pain that explained the haunted look she had glimpsed in his office. "But he's not dead." "Apparently not. The blackmail started 6 months after his funeral. Same handwriting, same intimate knowledge of our family business, same ability to anticipate my moves. Either Aaron survived and has been hiding for a decade, or someone else has access to information only he would know." Sophia studied the letter again, noting the personal details woven throughout the threats. References to childhood memories, family dynamics, and private conversations that only a brother would remember. "Mr. Carter, there are specific details in this letter that suggest Aaron not only survived, but has been watching you closely. He knows about your daily routines, your business meetings, even your personal relationships." "What personal relationships?" Sophia hesitated. The letter contained references to Ryan's romantic life, or lack thereof, that felt uncomfortably intimate. "He mentions that you haven't been in a serious relationship since Amanda Wilson. He seems to know details about your private life that go beyond business surveillance." Carter's sharp intake of breath confirmed Sophia's suspicion. Amanda Wilson meant something significant. "How much of the letter have you translated?" "About 60%. But Mr. Carter, there's something else. The letter references consequences for non-payment that go beyond financial ruin. Aaron mentions previous incidents where people who threatened to expose him ended up dead." "I know." The flat acceptance in Carter's voice chilled Sophia more than the threats in the letter. "You know? Marcus Webb, my former business partner. He discovered some of the early financial irregularities and threatened to go to the authorities. 3 days later, he died in a mugging gone wrong. The police found no connection to our business, but the timing was convenient." Sophia's hands went cold. She was translating evidence of murder, holding proof of a decade-long campaign of terror orchestrated by a dead man who wasn't dead. "Mr. Carter, why haven't you gone to the police?" "With what evidence?" "A blackmail letter written in Russian that implicates me in fraud and regulatory violations. Aaron has spent 10 years making sure that exposing him would destroy me too." Sophia understood now why Carter had looked so trapped, so desperate. He wasn't just fighting blackmail. He was fighting a ghost who knew all his secrets and had spent a decade positioning himself to destroy everything Ryan had built. "There's more to translate, but I think I understand the situation now. Aaron isn't just demanding money. He's orchestrating your complete destruction. Can you finish the translation tonight?" Sophia looked at the remaining text, dense with financial terminology and legal threats. Yes, but Mr. Carter, when this is done, what happens to Aaron? I don't know, but for the first time in 10 years, I'll have someone else who knows the truth. The vulnerability in his voice surprised Sophia. This wasn't the arrogant CEO who had mocked her intelligence. This was a man who had been fighting alone for so long that he had forgotten what it felt like to have an ally. I'll have the complete translation ready by tomorrow night. Thank you, Martinez. And Sophia? The use of her first name sent an unexpected warmth through her chest. Yes. Be careful. If Aaron discovers that someone else can read his communications, he won't hesitate to eliminate the threat. The line went dead, leaving Sophia alone with a document that could save Ryan Carter or get them both killed. Sophia finished the translation at dawn, her eyes burning from hours of deciphering Aaron's twisted correspondence. The complete document revealed a level of calculated vengeance that made her stomach turn. Aaron hadn't just been blackmailing Ryan. He had been systematically dismantling his brother's life piece by piece, payment by payment, for an entire decade. She showered quickly and drove to Carter Technologies, arriving at 7 a.m. with the translation folded in her purse. The building hummed with early morning activity, executives and assistants rushing past with coffee and purpose. Sophia felt invisible again, just another service worker in a sea of suits. The elevator ride to the 32nd floor felt endless. When the doors opened, she found Ryan Carter standing in his office doorway, as if he had been waiting for hours. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his usually perfect appearance showed signs of a sleepless night. Do you have it? Sophia nodded, following him into his office. He closed the door and activated the privacy glass with a touch of his phone. The walls went opaque, sealing them in together. Tell me. Sophia unfolded her handwritten translation and placed it on his desk. Aaron has been planning this for 10 years. The blackmail isn't random. It's systematic revenge. He's been forcing you to make decisions that compromise your company's integrity, bit by bit, until you're so deep in violations that exposure would destroy everything. Ryan's jaw tightened as he scanned her work. What else? He references Amanda Wilson 17 times. Whatever happened between you three, that's the real motivation behind everything. The money is secondary. Aaron wants you to suffer the way he believes you made him suffer. Ryan walked to his window, staring out at the Portland skyline. Amanda was Aaron's fiancée. They were supposed to marry 10 years ago. Sophia waited, sensing there was more. 3 days before the wedding, Amanda came to me. She was terrified, crying, desperate. Aaron had been having nightmares, violent episodes, drinking heavily since he returned from overseas deployment. She found pills in his apartment, medication he wasn't supposed to have, documents suggesting he was involved in something illegal during his military service. Ryan's reflection in the window looked haunted. Amanda didn't know what to do. She loved Aaron, but she was afraid of him. She begged me to help her find a way to get him treatment without destroying his career. What did you do? I held her while she cried. I promised to help. I told her we would figure it out together. Ryan turned back to Sophia, his expression grim. Aaron walked in on us, saw Amanda in my arms, heard me promising to take care of her. Sophia's heart sank as she understood. He thought you were having an affair. I tried to explain, but Aaron was beyond reason. He accused me of betraying him, of stealing his fiancée, of plotting against him. Amanda tried to tell him the truth, but he wouldn't listen. He said if I wanted her so badly, I could have her and live with the consequences. The car accident. Aaron drove off that night in a rage. We found his car wrapped around a tree on Highway 26, burned beyond recognition. The body inside was too damaged for proper identification, but his military dog tags were recovered. We buried what we thought was my brother. Sophia studied Ryan's face, seeing the decade of guilt etched in the lines around his eyes. But he staged it. The letter you translated confirms it. Aaron had help, probably his military contacts. He disappeared, let us mourn him, then started the blackmail campaign 6 months later. He's been watching me live with the guilt of his death while systematically destroying everything I built. What happened to Amanda? Ryan's expression darkened further. She blamed herself for everything. Believed that if she hadn't come to me, Aaron would still be alive. She married someone else within a year, Marcus Webb. Sophia's blood chilled. Your business partner? The one who died in the mugging. Amanda was widowed after 2 years of marriage. She moved to Seattle, changed her name, disappeared from my life completely. I haven't seen her since Marcus's funeral. The pieces fell into place with horrible clarity. Aaron didn't just kill your business partner to silence him. He killed Amanda's husband to punish her for choosing you, even though she never actually chose you. Ryan nodded grimly. The letter mentions that Amanda is next if I don't comply with his latest demands. He's not finished with either of us. Sophia felt a chill that had nothing to do with the office air conditioning. Mr. Carter, this isn't just blackmail anymore. Aaron is planning to eliminate everyone he believes wronged him. That includes you, Amanda, and now me. You? I can read his communications. I'm a witness to his crimes. In his mind, I'm a threat that needs to be neutralized. Ryan moved closer to Sophia, close enough that she could smell his cologne and see the flecks of gold in his gray eyes. I won't let anything happen to you. The intensity in his voice sent an unexpected warmth through Sophia's chest. For 8 months, she had been invisible to this man. Now he was looking at her like she mattered, like her safety was as important to him as his own. Why do you care what happens to me? Ryan's hand reached out as if to touch her face, then stopped just inches away. Because you're the first person in 10 years who's been brave enough to stand beside me against Aaron. Because you risked your life to help a stranger. Because you're not who I thought you were, Sophia Martinez. The way he said her name made Sophia's heart skip. There was something in his eyes she had never seen before. Not just gratitude, but genuine admiration. Maybe even attraction. I'm still just a janitor, Mr. Carter. No. His voice dropped to a whisper. You're the woman who might save my life. The space between them crackled with tension Sophia didn't know how to handle. This was dangerous territory, getting emotionally involved with a man whose life was under siege by a psychotic brother everyone thought was dead. But when Ryan looked at her like that, like she was the first woman he had truly seen in years, Sophia found it impossible to care about the danger. What do we do now? We find Aaron before he finds us. And we make sure Amanda Wilson stays alive long enough to learn the truth about what really happened 10 years ago. Sophia nodded, knowing she had just committed herself to a war she might not survive. But looking into Ryan Carter's eyes, feeling the electricity that sparked between them despite the impossible circumstances, she realized she was already too deep to turn back. The ghost brother was coming for them all. But this time, Ryan wouldn't be fighting alone. Sophia's phone buzzed during her lunch break 3 days later. An unknown number displayed a single line of text that made her blood freeze. Amanda Wilson sends her regards. Coffee shop on Morrison. 1 hour. Come alone. Sophia stared at the message, her sandwich forgotten. She had been careful since finishing the translation, varying her routes to work, checking for surveillance, staying in public places. But Aaron had found her anyway. She called Ryan immediately. It's a trap. Ryan's voice was sharp with panic. Don't go anywhere near Morrison Street. He has Amanda. If I don't show up, he'll kill her. If you do show up, he'll kill you both. Sophia gathered her jacket and purse, already walking toward her car. I can't let an innocent woman die because I translated his letter. Sophia, listen to me. Aaron has been planning this for 10 years. He knows exactly how to manipulate people into doing what he wants. This is what he's been building toward. Sophia started her engine, phone pressed against her ear. Then we give him what he wants. Which is what exactly? My confession? The destruction of my company? My death? Me? The silence on the other end of the line stretched for several heartbeats. What are you talking about? Sophia pulled into traffic, heading toward downtown Portland. I'm the wild card he didn't plan for. Someone who can read his communications, who knows his secrets, who can testify against him. He needs to eliminate me to protect himself. That's exactly why you can't walk into his trap. It's not a trap if I know it's coming. Sophia ended the call before Ryan could argue further. She parked 2 blocks from the coffee shop and walked the rest of the way, scanning every face, every doorway, every parked car. The afternoon crowd provided cover, but it also provided hiding places for threats. The coffee shop on Morrison Street was a small, dimly lit place with exposed brick walls and mismatched furniture. Sophia spotted Amanda Wilson immediately. She sat alone at a corner table, her hands wrapped around a coffee cup that had clearly gone cold. Even from across the room, Sophia could see the fear in her posture. Amanda looked nothing like Sophia had imagined. Ryan's description had suggested a fragile woman broken by tragedy, but Amanda Wilson radiated quiet strength despite her obvious terror. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her clothes suggested a woman who worked with her hands. Paint stains on her jeans, calluses visible on her fingers. Sophia approached the table slowly, every nerve on high alert. Amanda Wilson? Amanda looked up, revealing green eyes shadowed with exhaustion. You must be Sophia Martinez. Please, sit down quickly. Sophia took the chair across from Amanda, positioning herself so she could see both the front door and the back exit. Where is he? Watching. Always watching. Amanda's voice barely rose above a whisper. He showed me photographs of you. Your apartment building, your mother's hospital, your car. He knows everything about your life. Sophia's stomach dropped. How long has he been following me? Since the night you found the letter. He has cameras in Ryan's office, listening devices throughout the building. Aaron has been monitoring his brother's life for years. The revelation hit Sophia like a physical blow. Aaron had watched her discover the document, had listened to her conversations with Ryan, had probably been planning her elimination from the moment she accepted the translation challenge. What does he want? Amanda reached across the table and grasped Sophia's hand. Her fingers were ice cold. He wants Ryan to choose. Your life or mine. He's going to force Ryan to decide which one of us lives. Sophia pulled her hand free. That's insane. No, it's calculated. Aaron believes Ryan betrayed him by stealing me away. Now he wants Ryan to experience the same loss. Watching someone he cares about die because of his choices. Ryan doesn't care about me. I'm just the janitor who happened to read Russian. Amanda's laugh held no humor. You really believe that? I've known Ryan Carter for 15 years. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Sophia's heart hammered against her ribs. You've seen us together? Aaron has video surveillance. He's been documenting every interaction between you and Ryan, building evidence of your relationship. He knows Ryan cares about you, Sophia. That's why you're here. Sophia scanned the coffee shop again, noting the security camera mounted near the ceiling, the man at the counter who hadn't ordered anything in 10 minutes, the woman by the window who kept glancing their way. Where is Aaron now? Close. He said he would give us 20 minutes to talk before he made his move. Amanda checked her watch. We have 8 minutes left. Sophia leaned closer. Do you know where he's been hiding for 10 years? An abandoned warehouse in the industrial district. He's been living there since he faked his death, planning every detail of his revenge. Sophia, you need to understand. Aaron isn't the man he used to be. Whatever happened to him overseas broke something fundamental. He's capable of anything now, including murder. He killed Marcus not just to silence him, but to punish me for moving on. Aaron sees anyone who interferes with his plans as expendable. That includes you. Sophia's phone buzzed. A text message from Aaron's number. Time's up, ladies. Black SUV outside. Both of you. Don't make me come in and get you. Through the window, Sophia could see the vehicle. Tinted windows, engine running, rear doors open like a mouth waiting to swallow them. Amanda stood on shaking legs. We have to go. If we resist, he'll kill innocent people to make his point. Sophia rose slowly, her mind racing through possibilities. Running would endanger everyone in the coffee shop. Fighting would accomplish nothing against Aaron's planning and resources. But compliance meant walking into a situation designed to destroy Ryan Carter completely. As they moved toward the door, Sophia sent a quick text to Ryan. Morrison Warehouse District. Don't come alone. She deleted the message immediately, knowing Aaron would check her phone. But Ryan was smart enough to understand. He would bring police, federal agents, anyone who could help. The SUV waited like a predator. Sophia could see Aaron's silhouette in the driver's seat, broad shoulders and military bearing unmistakable even in shadow. As they approached the vehicle, Sophia made a decision that would either save them all or get them killed. She was going to survive this, and she was going to make sure Aaron Carter paid for 10 years of terrorism. The rear doors slammed shut behind them, sealing Sophia and Amanda into darkness. The SUV pulled away from the curb, carrying them toward whatever hell Aaron had prepared. But Sophia Martinez had been underestimated before. Aaron was about to learn that some janitors were a lot more dangerous than they appeared. The warehouse smelled of rust and decay, decades of abandonment layered with the acrid scent of chemicals Aaron had used to create his hidden fortress. Sophia's wrists burned against the zip ties binding her to a metal chair, but the physical discomfort was nothing compared to the psychological warfare Aaron had been conducting for the past 3 hours. He paced in front of them like a caged animal, his military bearing still evident despite 10 years of living in shadows. Aaron Carter was broader than his brother, more physically imposing, but it was the cold calculation in his eyes that truly terrified Sophia. This wasn't madness. It was methodical revenge executed with surgical precision. Amanda sat in an identical chair 15 feet away, tears streaming down her face as Aaron forced her to recite details about her relationship with Ryan. But something in Amanda's responses didn't match the narrative Aaron had been building in his blackmail letters. "Tell her about that night," Aaron commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to absolute obedience. "Tell Sophia how you and my brother planned to humiliate me." Amanda's voice shook. "Aaron, that's not what happened. Don't lie to her." Aaron's roar echoed through the warehouse. "You came to my apartment, crying about cold feet, about not being ready for marriage. Then you ran straight to Ryan's arms for comfort." Sophia listened carefully to the exchange, her translator's mind cataloging every inconsistency. Aaron's version of events kept shifting, details changing with each retelling. He was reconstructing history to fit his narrative of betrayal. "I didn't go to Ryan about cold feet," Amanda said quietly. "I went to him about you." Aaron stopped pacing. "About me?" "The nightmares, Aaron. The drinking. The pills you were hiding. The violent episodes when you thought I was asleep." Amanda's voice grew stronger. "I found your military medical records. PTSD diagnosis, anger management issues, unauthorized medications. I was scared of what you might do to yourself or to me." Sophia watched Aaron's face transform, confusion replacing certainty. For the first time since their capture, he looked genuinely surprised. "That's not. You were having an affair with Ryan. I was trying to save your life." Amanda's composure finally cracked. "I loved you, Aaron. I wanted to help you get treatment before the wedding. Ryan was the only person I trusted enough to ask for advice." Aaron pulled out a manila folder stuffed with photographs and documents. "Then explain these." He scattered images across a table, surveillance photos of Ryan and Amanda embracing, intimate conversations, moments that looked damning without context. But Sophia's trained eye caught something crucial. The timestamps on several photos showed dates after Aaron's supposed death. "Aaron," Sophia said carefully, "some of these photos are dated months after your car accident." Aaron's hand froze over the pictures. "What?" Sophia leaned forward as much as her restraints allowed. "Look at the metadata stamps. This photo of Ryan and Amanda at Marcus Webb's funeral is from 2 years after you supposedly died. How could this be evidence of an affair before your death?" Aaron snatched up the photographs, studying them with growing confusion. Sophia could see his certainty wavering as the fabrication unraveled. "You've been building evidence to support your theory," Sophia continued, her voice gentle but relentless. "Mixing real surveillance with manufactured proof. But the timeline doesn't work, Aaron. The affair you've been punishing them for never happened when you think it did." Amanda gasped. "You've been watching us for 10 years? Taking pictures?" Aaron's composure cracked completely. "I had to document everything. I had to prove what you both did to me." "What we did to you was try to help," Amanda said. "I went to Ryan because I was terrified you were going to hurt yourself. The night you disappeared, I was coming back to your apartment to tell you I had found a therapist who specialized in military trauma. Instead, I found a suicide note and blood on your bathroom floor." Sophia's breath caught. Suicide note. Aaron left a letter saying he couldn't live with what he had become overseas, that he didn't deserve love or happiness. He said he was going to drive until he found the courage to end everything. Amanda's voice broke. "We thought you were dead because you wanted to be dead." Aaron staggered backward, the photographs scattering to the floor. "No, you chose Ryan over me. You both conspired to humiliate me." Sophia saw the truth in Aaron's fractured expression. 10 years of revenge based on a misunderstanding, a wounded soldier's paranoid interpretation of people trying to save his life. "Aaron, look at me," Sophia said firmly. "Your brother has been living with guilt over your death for a decade." Amanda blamed herself for not being able to help you. Neither of them moved on. "They've been mourning you." "That's impossible." But Aaron's voice lacked conviction. "The blackmail letters you've been sending, they reference an affair, but the evidence doesn't support that timeline. You've been torturing innocent people because you misunderstood their intentions. Aaron pulled out a gun, his hands shaking. You don't know what you're talking about. Sophia's training kicked in, the same diplomatic skills her father had taught her for defusing international tensions. I know you're in pain. I know whatever happened overseas damaged you in ways that haven't healed. But Aaron, revenge won't fix what's broken inside you. They betrayed me. They tried to save you, Sophia said quietly, and you punished them for loving you enough to get involved. Aaron's composure shattered completely. The gun wavered in his grip as a decade of constructed rage collapsed under the weight of truth. Sophia realized this was her moment, not to escape, but to save all of them from the tragedy Aaron had been orchestrating. Aaron, it's not too late to stop this. Ryan still loves his brother. Amanda still cares about the man you used to be. But if you pull that trigger, you'll become the monster you've been afraid you already were. The warehouse fell silent except for Aaron's ragged breathing and the distant sound of sirens approaching. Ryan had received her message. Help was coming. But first, Sophia had to convince a broken soldier to choose healing over revenge. The sirens grew louder, their wailing echoes bouncing off the warehouse walls like ghostly warnings. Aaron's grip on the gun tightened, but Sophia could see the war raging behind his eyes. 10 years of carefully constructed hatred battling against the devastating possibility that he had been wrong about everything. They're coming for you, Aaron said, his voice hollow. Ryan called the police. Because he's trying to save his brother, Sophia replied. Just like he tried to save you 10 years ago. Aaron laughed bitterly, but the sound broke halfway through. Save me? He stole everything from me. Look at the evidence again, Aaron. Really look at it. Sophia nodded toward the scattered photographs on the floor. The timestamps, the locations, the context. You've been collecting proof of a betrayal that happened after you were supposed to be dead. How does that make sense? Aaron stared at the photos, his certainty crumbling with each passing second. Sophia could see him processing the timeline, the implications, the devastating possibility that his entire crusade had been built on misunderstanding. I saw them together, he whispered. In Ryan's apartment. She was in his arms. Because she was crying about you, Amanda said, her voice stronger now. Because she was terrified that the man she loved was going to hurt himself, and she didn't know how to stop it. The warehouse doors burst open with a crash that echoed like thunder. Ryan Carter appeared in the doorway, flanked by FBI agents and Portland police officers. But Sophia's attention was fixed on Ryan's face. The mixture of relief at seeing her alive and desperate hope at seeing his brother breathing. Aaron, Ryan's voice carried a decade of grief and love. Thank God you're alive. Aaron spun toward his brother, the gun swinging wildly. Don't come any closer. Ryan raised his hands, stepping forward despite the weapons trained on him by his own security team. I'm not armed. I just want to talk to my brother. Your brother died 10 years ago. No, he didn't. Ryan took another step closer. He's been hiding, hurting, living with pain that I should have helped him face. But he's still alive, and it's not too late to fix this. Sophia watched the dynamic between the brothers, seeing past Aaron's anger to the wounded soldier who had been carrying invisible scars for over a decade. This wasn't just about a misunderstood affair. It was about a man who had lost himself in war and couldn't find his way back to the person he used to be. Aaron, what happened overseas? Sophia asked quietly. What really happened that made you believe you didn't deserve love? Aaron's composure finally shattered completely. The gun fell from his trembling hands as a decade of suppressed trauma erupted in broken words and gasping sobs. We were supposed to protect them, the civilians, the families. But the intelligence was wrong, and when we breached that compound, Aaron's voice broke. Children, Sophia. There were children inside. Ryan moved closer, his own eyes filling with tears. Aaron, that wasn't your fault. I was the team leader. I made the call to go in. 17 people died because of my decision, and half of them were under 12 years old. The pieces fell into place for Sophia with heartbreaking clarity. Aaron hadn't just been dealing with PTSD. He had been carrying survivors' guilt and moral injury that convinced him he was a monster who didn't deserve happiness. That's why you left the suicide note, Amanda said, understanding dawning in her voice. You thought you were protecting me from being with a killer. Aaron nodded, unable to speak. Ryan reached his brother, and pulled him into an embrace that neither man resisted. 10 years of separation, grief, and misunderstanding collapsed in that moment. I thought I was saving you from having to live with what I had become, Aaron whispered against Ryan's shoulder. But when I saw you with Amanda, I convinced myself that you had planned it, that you wanted me gone so you could have her. I wanted my brother back, Ryan said fiercely. I would have done anything to help you heal. We both would have. Sophia felt tears streaming down her own cheeks as she watched the reunion. The FBI agents had lowered their weapons, recognizing that the immediate threat had passed. But the real healing was just beginning. Aaron, Sophia said gently, the blackmail, the threats, Marcus Webb's death, we need to address what happened during those 10 years. Aaron pulled away from Ryan, his face a mask of shame. Marcus wasn't supposed to die. I was just trying to scare him into silence, but he fought back, and Aaron's voice failed him. You were protecting a lie, Ryan said quietly. All of this, the fake death, the blackmail, the surveillance, it was all to avoid facing the truth about that night overseas. Aaron nodded miserably. I convinced myself that if I could prove you had betrayed me, then I was justified in disappearing. It was easier than admitting I was a coward who abandoned everyone who loved me. Amanda approached slowly, her movements careful and non-threatening. Aaron, you weren't a coward. You were a wounded soldier who needed help that none of us knew how to give. But I became the monster I was afraid of being, Aaron said. I terrorized my own brother for 10 years. I killed an innocent man. I threatened both of you. Sophia struggled against her restraints, frustrated that she couldn't reach him physically. Aaron, look at me. You can't change what you've done, but you can choose what you do next. You can choose healing over revenge, accountability over self-destruction. Ryan began cutting Sophia's zip ties with a knife one of the agents had provided. As circulation returned to her hands, she rubbed feeling back into her wrists while keeping her eyes locked on Aaron. The military has treatment programs now that didn't exist 10 years ago, she continued. Therapy specifically designed for moral injury, for the kind of trauma you experienced. You don't have to carry this alone anymore. Aaron looked at his brother, then at Amanda, then at Sophia. Why would any of you help me after what I've done? Because that's what love looks like, Ryan said simply. It looks like choosing redemption over revenge, even when revenge feels justified. Sophia felt something shift in her chest as she watched Ryan speak. This wasn't the arrogant CEO who had mocked her intelligence a week ago. This was a man who had learned that vulnerability wasn't weakness. It was the foundation of every meaningful relationship. I want to turn myself in, Aaron said quietly. I want to make amends for Marcus Webb's death, for the terror I've caused, for the decade I stole from all of us. Ryan nodded, though tears continued to stream down his face. We'll get you the best lawyers, the best treatment programs. You won't face this alone. As the FBI agents moved to take Aaron into custody, he turned to Sophia one final time. Thank you for seeing the truth when I couldn't. Thank you for saving my brother's life. Sophia watched Aaron being led away, knowing that the hardest part of his journey was just beginning. But for the first time in 10 years, Aaron Carter had hope instead of rage. That was a start. Ryan approached her slowly, his gray eyes soft with an emotion she had never seen before. Sophia, you learned something today, she interrupted gently, about letting people help you carry impossible burdens. Ryan nodded, reaching out to touch her cheek with infinite tenderness. I learned that the strongest people aren't the ones who never fall down. They're the ones brave enough to trust someone else to help them stand back up. Sophia leaned into his touch, feeling the electricity that had been building between them finally find its voice. Is that your way of saying you need me, Mr. Carter? It's my way of saying I love you, Sophia Martinez. And I'm hoping you might consider staying in my life long enough for me to prove I'm worthy of yours. Sophia smiled, knowing their story was just beginning. I think I can manage that. Outside the warehouse, sirens faded into the distance, carrying Aaron toward accountability and healing. Inside, Ryan Carter discovered that the greatest translation Sophia had accomplished wasn't converting Russian blackmail into English threats. She had translated the language of his guarded heart into something he had never dared hope for: unconditional love. 6 months later, Sophia stood in the conference room of Carter Technologies, addressing a group of international human rights attorneys via video conference. The same building where she had once emptied trash cans now served as headquarters for her work as Director of Translation Services for the Carter Foundation's Global Justice Initiative. The documents from the Bosnian tribunal have been fully translated and verified. She reported to the screen full of legal experts. We've identified 3 additional witnesses whose testimonies were previously inaccessible due to language barriers. Ryan watched from the doorway, pride radiating from his expression as Sophia fielded technical questions in 4 different languages. The transformation in both their lives had been remarkable, but watching Sophia step into her intellectual power remained his greatest source of wonder. The conference ended, and Sophia gathered her files with the efficient grace she brought to everything she did. Her mother's medical bills were now a distant memory, paid in full by Sophia's new salary and comprehensive health insurance. Elena Martinez had moved into a comfortable assisted living facility where she received round-the-clock care and spoke proudly to anyone who would listen about her daughter's important work. "How did the morning session go?" Ryan asked, entering the conference room as Sophia powered down the video equipment. 3 more trafficking cases moving forward because we could translate survivor testimonies. 47 women who might finally see justice. Sophia's smile held the satisfaction of meaningful work. "Your foundation is changing lives, Ryan." "Our foundation," he corrected gently. "None of this would exist without your vision." The Carter Foundation had emerged from the ashes of Aaron's blackmail campaign. When the full extent of the government contract fraud came to light during Aaron's plea negotiations, Ryan had voluntarily surrendered the profits, nearly $200 million, to establish a foundation focused on justice for victims of war crimes and human trafficking. Sophia's linguistic abilities and cultural sensitivity had made her the natural choice to lead the translation services that were crucial to the Foundation's mission. Aaron was serving a reduced sentence at a federal facility that specialized in treating veterans with PTSD and moral injury. His cooperation with authorities had led to the prosecution of several other defense contractors involved in fraudulent practices, and his testimony had helped expose systematic corruption that had been damaging military operations for years. More importantly, Aaron was finally receiving the treatment he had needed for over a decade. Ryan visited his brother every month, and their relationship was slowly healing. Aaron would never fully forgive himself for Marcus Webb's death or for the terror he had inflicted on Ryan and Amanda, but he was learning to channel his guilt into motivation for rehabilitation rather than self-destruction. Amanda Wilson had also found peace. She had attended Aaron's sentencing, not out of vindictiveness, but to offer forgiveness that freed them both from the past. She now worked as an art therapist specializing in trauma recovery, her own healing journey enabling her to help others process pain through creative expression. "Speaking of the foundation," Ryan said, reaching into his jacket pocket, "I have something for you." He pulled out a cream-colored envelope that made Sophia's heart skip. The same elegant stationery Aaron had used for his blackmail letters, but this time the message inside would change her life in an entirely different way. "Ryan, what is this?" "Open it." Sophia's hands trembled slightly as she broke the wax seal. Inside, written in Russian and Ryan's careful handwriting, was a single question that took her breath away. "Sophia Valentina Martinez, will you marry me?" Below the question, in English, Ryan had written, "I know you can translate this perfectly, but this time, I'm not challenging your intelligence. I'm trusting you with my heart." Sophia looked up to find Ryan on one knee beside her chair, a ring box open in his hands. The diamond caught the afternoon light streaming through the conference room windows, but Sophia's attention was entirely focused on the man before her. "You learned Russian?" she whispered. "I learned enough to ask the most important question of my life in the language that brought us together." Ryan's voice was steady, but she could see the vulnerability in his eyes. 6 months ago, I made a cruel joke about marriage if you could translate a document. Today, I'm asking you to marry me because you translated something far more important. You helped me understand that real strength comes from letting people love you." Sophia felt tears streaming down her cheeks as she thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. From invisible janitor to accomplished professional, from loneliness to love, from fear to fierce partnership. "The night I found Aaron's letter, I was afraid I would spend the rest of my life invisible," she said. "Now I wake up every morning knowing that someone sees me, values me, loves me exactly as I am. Is that a yes? Sophia laughed through her tears. In Russian, English, Spanish, and any other language you'd like to hear. Yes, Ryan Carter. I will marry you. Ryan slipped the ring onto her finger with hands that shook with emotion. As he stood and pulled her into his arms, Sophia marveled at how perfectly they fit together, not just physically, but intellectually, emotionally, spiritually. There's one more thing, Ryan murmured against her hair. I've been working on a wedding gift for you. Ryan, you don't need to. I've been learning Spanish. Elena has been teaching me during my visits with her. Ryan pulled back to meet Sophia's eyes. I want to be able to speak to your mother in her own language, to thank her properly for raising the woman who saved my life. Sophia's heart overflowed with love for this man who had learned not one, but two new languages just to honor the people who mattered to her. I love you, Ryan Carter. I love you too, Sophia Martinez. Soon to be Sophia Carter. They kissed in the conference room where Sophia had once presented evidence of Aaron's crimes, where she had first stepped into her power as an intellectual force rather than invisible labor. The transformation felt complete, not just of their relationship, but of their understanding of what partnership could be. When do you want to have the wedding? Ryan asked. Soon, Sophia said, smiling. But first, I want to finish the Guatemala case. 3 more villages of testimony to translate, and then those families can finally have their day in court. Ryan's expression softened with admiration. Most women would want to focus on wedding planning. Most women aren't responsible for translating justice for people who have waited decades to be heard. No, Ryan agreed, kissing her forehead tenderly. They're not. That's why I know I'm marrying exactly the right woman. As evening fell over Portland, Ryan and Sophia worked side by side in the foundation offices, their desks pushed together so they could collaborate on cases that spanned continents and languages. Ryan handled the legal and financial aspects while Sophia ensured that every voice was heard, every testimony preserved, every story given the dignity of accurate translation. Ryan, Sophia said during a quiet moment, do you ever regret that I found Aaron's letter? Everything that happened afterward could have been avoided if I had just cleaned around it and left. Ryan considered the question seriously. If you hadn't found that letter, Aaron would still be out there, consumed by hatred that was destroying him. I would still be living under his threats, making compromised decisions that went against my values. We would have continued being strangers sharing the same building. He reached across to take her hand, the engagement ring catching the light from their shared desk lamp. More than that, though, if you hadn't been brave enough to accept my arrogant challenge, I would never have discovered that the woman I needed was right there in front of me, invisible only because I was too blind to see her. Sophia squeezed his hand. Your challenge wasn't just about translation. It was about whether I was brave enough to step into my own power. And were you? Sophia looked around the foundation offices, at the walls lined with letters of gratitude from families who had found justice through their work, at the photographs of survivors whose stories had finally been heard in their own languages. I think I'm still learning, she said. But having you beside me makes me braver than I ever thought possible. Ryan lifted their joined hands and pressed a kiss to her engagement ring. Then we'll keep learning together, for the rest of our lives. Outside their windows, Portland twinkled with evening lights. But inside the foundation offices, 2 people who had found each other across impossible circumstances continued the work of translating hope into reality, one case at a time. The document that had brought them together was evidence of hatred and revenge, but the love story it had sparked would spend decades writing itself in the language of justice, partnership, and unconditional devotion. Sophia Martinez had accepted Ryan Carter's challenge to translate a single document. Instead, she had translated the code of his guarded heart and taught him that the most powerful transformations happen not through force or manipulation, but through the simple, revolutionary act of allowing yourself to be truly known by another person. Their wedding would take place in 3 months, in a ceremony conducted in both English and Spanish, with vows they had written together in the language of love that transcended any single tongue. But the real marriage had already begun, 2 lives joining not in desperation or convenience, but in the deep recognition that they were stronger together than either could ever be alone. The janitor who read between the lines had become the woman who translated love itself. And the arrogant millionaire who had mocked her intelligence had become the man who would spend the rest of his life ensuring that her brilliance illuminated the darkest corners of injustice. It was, Sophia thought as she returned to her translation work with Ryan's hand warm in hers, the most beautiful story she had ever helped write. Sophia Carter-Martinez stood at the podium of the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva, her translator's badge catching the light as she addressed delegates from 47 nations. The same hands that had once pushed a cleaning cart now gestured confidently as she presented findings from the Carter Foundation's landmark study on linguistic barriers in international justice. When survivors of human trafficking cannot tell their stories in their native languages, justice becomes a privilege of the educated rather than a right of the oppressed, she told the assembly. Our foundation has successfully translated over 3,000 testimonies in the past 5 years, leading to 847 convictions and the rescue of nearly 2,000 victims. In the gallery, Ryan watched his wife with the same wonder he had felt that first night when she accepted his arrogant challenge. 5 years of marriage had only deepened his admiration for Sophia's intellectual courage and compassionate determination. Their partnership had evolved far beyond romance into something more profound, a shared mission that gave meaning to wealth and power. The foundation now operated in 32 countries, with Sophia leading a team of 73 translators and cultural liaisons. What had begun as Ryan's attempt to atone for his company's past sins had become a global force for justice, recognized by the International Criminal Court as essential to modern human rights enforcement. But their greatest translation project was still ongoing at home. After Sophia's presentation, they returned to their hotel suite overlooking Lake Geneva. Sophia kicked off her heels and sank into Ryan's arms on the couch, exhaustion and satisfaction warring in her expression. "How did the video call go this morning?" she asked, referring to their weekly check-in with Aaron. "Better than expected. He's been promoted to lead counselor for the Veteran Rehabilitation Program. His supervisor says Aaron has a gift for reaching soldiers who have given up on themselves." Aaron had been released after serving 3 years of his sentence, his exemplary rehabilitation and cooperation with authorities earning him early parole. He now worked at a VA facility in Colorado, using his own recovery journey to guide other veterans struggling with moral injury and PTSD. The work was demanding and often heartbreaking, but Aaron had found purpose in transforming his pain into healing for others. "And Amanda's exhibition?" Sophia inquired. "Opening next month in Seattle. 27 paintings exploring themes of forgiveness and redemption." She sold 3 pieces before the show even opened. Amanda Wilson had channeled her artistic talents into therapeutic practice, but she had recently returned to painting as a form of personal expression. Her upcoming exhibition, titled After the Storm, featured abstract works that processed her journey from victim to survivor to healer. She and Aaron maintained a careful friendship now, both committed to supporting each other's recovery without romanticizing their shared past. Sophia curled closer to Ryan, her hand resting on the slight curve of her abdomen. Speaking of new beginnings, Ryan's hand covered hers immediately, the same protective gesture he had been making unconsciously for the past 3 months. "How are you feeling?" "Nervous, excited, terrified, grateful." Sophia's smile was radiant despite her exhaustion. "Did I mention terrified?" Their daughter was due in 4 months, a planned pregnancy that had filled both of them with joy and anxiety. Sophia had insisted on continuing her travel schedule for the foundation, while Ryan had become obsessively protective, secretly researching the medical facilities in every city she visited. "Elena is already knitting enough blankets for quintuplets," Ryan said, making Sophia laugh. Sophia's mother had become the foundation's unofficial grandmother, treating every staff member like family and spoiling them with traditional Salvadoran cooking. Elena lived in a beautiful apartment near Ryan and Sophia's house, close enough for daily visits, but independent enough to maintain her dignity. Her health had stabilized dramatically once the stress of financial uncertainty was removed, and she had become one of Ryan's most trusted advisors on cultural sensitivity in their international work. "I keep thinking about what kind of world we're bringing her into," Sophia said quietly. "A world where her mother has already made it safer for thousands of other children," Ryan replied. A world where her parents met by refusing to accept that intelligence has anything to do with the work you're assigned or the money in your bank account. Sophia turned in his arms to face him fully. Do you think we can teach her to see people the way we learned to see each other? I think we can teach her that everyone has a story worth translating, whether it's written in Russian blackmail letters or hidden in the heart of someone society has deemed invisible. Sophia kissed him softly, marveling as always at how completely he understood her. Their love story had begun with deception and desperation, but it had grown into something that influenced every decision they made, every cause they championed, every life they touched through their work. What do you think she'll become? Sophia wondered, her hand moving in gentle circles over her pregnancy. Anything she wants, Ryan said firmly. But I hope she becomes someone who uses her privileges to amplify voices that might otherwise go unheard. Like her parents? Better than her parents. Smarter, kinder, more effective at changing the world. Sophia smiled, knowing their daughter would grow up seeing her mother's intelligence valued and her father's vulnerability celebrated. She would learn that love wasn't about rescue or salvation, but about two people choosing daily to build something together that neither could create alone. Ryan. Yes. Do you ever miss it? The corporate empire, the unchallenged authority, the simple pursuit of profit? Ryan considered the question seriously, as he always did when Sophia asked something important. I miss the illusion of control, but I don't miss the emptiness. Building something meaningful with you is harder than building wealth, but it's also infinitely more satisfying. Through their hotel window, the lights of Geneva twinkled like stars on the lake's surface. Tomorrow they would fly home to Portland, where Sophia would spend a week training new translators while Ryan finalized funding for foundation offices in 3 additional countries. Next month, they would attend Aaron's graduation from advanced counseling certification. In 4 months, they would welcome their daughter into a world they were actively working to improve. But tonight, they simply held each other in the quiet certainty that their love story was bigger than just the two of them. It had become a force that translated hope into action, that transformed individual healing into collective justice, that proved every day that the most powerful changes began with seeing clearly and choosing to act with courage. Sophia had once been invisible in Ryan Carter's world. Now she was the most important person in it, not because he had rescued her from poverty, but because she had shown him what real wealth looked like, a life spent using your gifts to serve something larger than yourself, surrounded by people who loved you not for what you could provide, but for who you chose to become. The janitor who read between the lines had become a force for international justice. The arrogant millionaire who mocked her intelligence had become a man who dedicated his resources to amplifying marginalized voices. And together, they were raising a daughter who would grow up knowing that love wasn't about finding someone to complete you. It was about finding someone whose own completeness inspired you to become the best version of yourself. It was, Sophia thought as she drifted to sleep in her husband's arms, the most beautiful translation she would ever complete.